Our area's most beautiful properties deserve the finest realtors. Meeks Realty Group. We focus on buying and selling residential and commercial properties throughout the tri-state area. Contact Meeks Realty Group online at meeks.us or call 304-440-1101.
The views and opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of 580 WCHS, its employees, or WVRC Media. 580 Live is presented by Thornhill Automotive and is broadcast live from the Parmar Stores studio. The country, the United States of America, the state, West Virginia, the city, Charleston. This is 580 Live. And your host of 580 Live.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
He's kind of a big deal.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Dave Allen.
From the Parmar Store studio, it's 580 Live, brought to you by the Thornhill Auto Group, the voice of Charleston, WCHS. Ryan Nicholson is our producer today. Bigly, Piggly, Wiggly, hotline 304-345-5858. Fruit Pharmacy text 304-935-5008. If there's not a Parmar store near you now, there will be soon. Parmar invites you out to the Adelphia Summer Concert Series happening this weekend in Marietta, Ohio. It's only a 90-minute drive from downtown Charleston. Friday night, the Prince Project, a tribute to Prince and the Revolution. Saturday, full night of music, Taproot, and others there. Sunday is sold out. It's Ted Nugent. But that show is completely sold out. Great tickets for the other shows are available, though. You can visit theadelphia.com for more information. The Adelphia Summer Concert Series, fueled by Parmar Stores and brought to you by WVU Medicine. If there's not a Parmar store near you now, there will be soon. And 580 Live is brought to you by the Thornhill Auto Group. Summertime is here. Time to find new roads to the Thornhill Motor Mile during their Red, White, and Vroom celebration. Celebrate with a new Chevy Silverado. Click or come by ThornhillGMSuperstore.com or on US 119 in Chapmanville. Coming up a little bit later on the show, Howard Swint, local real estate guy, is going to join us, and he's got some issues, some concerns with the way some things have happened with the Charleston Building Commission as it pertains to the Charleston Town Center. He's going to join us to talk about that. Also, a little bit later on, Multifest kicks off in Charleston Thursday, and Tamara Eubanks, who is the executive director of Multifest, is going to join us to talk about that. But I want to welcome into the show now candidate for Attorney General and State Senator Mike Stuart. How are you, my friend?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Before we get to the campaign, and there have been some changes with the race for AG since the last time you were on. We'll get to that. But first, interims are coming up. Anything, just to give us a quick preview, anything you're looking forward to on that?
Well, I still think there's some uncertainty. I have not seen the bills yet, so I want to read the bills, and the call may come on Friday. Looks like there could be 8 to 10 bills we'll talk about, hopefully pass and work on. The jails and corrections officers, certainly something that is a priority for us.
And there's several things, as you said. The corrections, hopefully something will happen soon with foster care situation. A lot of things are going to be covered. I have to ask you this, since you were the head of the Trump campaign in West Virginia in 2016. Real quickly, third indictment came down yesterday. Thoughts?
Well, it was predictable, like we expected it. And we know that there was bad news for the Biden camp on Monday. And so we knew on Tuesday there'd be some sort of action against President Trump. And I'll say I've endorsed President Trump for re-election. I was his campaign chair in 2015, 2016, was his personal pick for U.S. attorney. Listen, this is incredibly transparently political at this point. These indictments getting into the mind of someone trying to figure out what they believe. There's no question Donald Trump believes that election was stolen. He's talked about it forever since the election. But let me point out that what's going to happen here is the president now has the ability to subpoena, right? They've included him. They've brought him into the federal court system, something he's wanted with respect to 2020 since that election was certified. And now he gets to subpoena election officials in Michigan, in Arizona, in Pennsylvania, in Wisconsin, in Georgia. There could be tens of thousands of subpoenas. He is going to have the ability to defend himself in terms of his view of that election, not my view, not your view, not the view of the Department of Justice. These are specific intent crimes. They've got to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the president absolutely knew in his mind that he was guilty of these crimes.
It's going to be interesting to see, and you and I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but I've made my feelings known about Donald Trump. However, it does get into a dangerous situation when you start trying to look into people's minds and what they're thinking. But we'll cover that another time.
I'll say this is pile on, though. That's the problem the American people have. That's why Donald Trump's numbers are overwhelming. That's why he will be the nominee.
He will.
The American people don't like a two-tiered justice system, and that is what we have happening in America today.
Let's get to the race for Attorney General. Last time you were on here, it looked like a two-person race with you facing off against fellow State Senator Ryan Weld. Now comes word from a couple of weeks ago that the race has added another participant, State Auditor J.B. McCuskey, who had been a candidate for governor, left the race for governor to instead turn his attention toward a race for Attorney General. Overall, your thoughts?
Well, I don't think it was a surprise. That's why it was a surprise to me to hear both these guys him-hawing about their relationship on statewide radio last week. One talking about his deep affection for the other saying, gosh, he promised me, he shouldn't have done that, it hurts my feelings. Give me a break. You're running for Attorney General, for God's sakes. Mm-hmm. This is a tough job. And today is the day the incandescent light bulb becomes illegal in America. We have the Biden administration coming after your firearms every single day. And so I wasn't surprised a bit. I just think instead of talking on statewide radio about your relationship, your friendship, we ought to be talking about the people of West Virginia. Newsflash to both my opponents. This isn't about either one of them, and it's not about Stuart. It's about the people of West Virginia who really feel under assault right now. If I'm worried about the feelings of anyone, I'm worried about that coal miner that's afraid he or she's going to lose that job today because of the assault on American energy and West Virginia coal by the folks in Washington.
I may get the exact quote wrong. We're talking to Mike Stuart, state senator and candidate for Attorney General. I may get the exact quote wrong. You can correct me. But did I read that you called J.B. McCuskey the most underqualified candidate for Attorney General?
You got it almost perfectly right.
Almost, okay.
But listen, let's look at his background. And I don't want to pick on JB. I consider him a friend. Mm-hmm. I like him. He's a nice guy. We're talking about the Attorney General of the state of West Virginia. I don't think that you should be Attorney General if you've only seen the inside of a courtroom on television. I don't think you should do that. I think he's done good things as the state auditor. And I would encourage him, if he wasn't measuring up in the governor's race, that perhaps he should think about going back to the auditor's seat. But of all the positions in state government, Attorney General, for goodness sakes, West Virginia versus EPA, these massive federal lawsuits, it's different than it used to be. A moderate in the role of Attorney General when all these federal hits are coming to West Virginia every single day? I don't think so. So my biggest issue with my opponents, they're both very clear moderates, both of them. J.B. McCuskey voted not once, not twice, but 3 times against constitutional concealed carry. My other opponent, well, he single-handedly blocked campus carry in Judiciary Committee. The Second Amendment, don't you for 1 second believe that the federal government under the Biden administration isn't coming for your guns. Don't believe it for a second. You definitely need an Attorney General that's prepared to defend the Second Amendment. That's just one example. I've said this. I just believe the difference between my opponents is the huge cavern between blackberry pie and blackberry cobbler. Blackberry pie and blackberry cobbler, they're the same. They're the same. Different people, the same.
Talking to Mike Stuart, that may be promo material right there. We're always looking for little things we can throw.
I'm just telling you, I'm a proven conservative.
Okay. What changes do you want to make to the office if you are elected?
Well, I think there are a couple, and I think we need to use the bully pulpit of the Attorney General for a couple things. Did you know during the pandemic there was $83 million of unemployment fraud in West Virginia alone? $83 million. You know how many of those folks have been prosecuted for unemployment fraud? Not 1 million. Not 2 million, $83 million of fraud. Virtually none. Virtually none. I think the Attorney General should have some authority over state agency fraud, not broad-based criminal prosecution, not trying the murder case that happens in a particular county, but state agency fraud, securities fraud, unemployment fraud. I think it's an important role for the Attorney General. 2, I think we need to use the bully pulpit of the Attorney General to work on things that are important to law enforcement and public safety. I think it's time, after what happened to Sergeant Maynard down in Mingo County, we need to talk about if you ambush law enforcement or first responders in the line of duty, the death penalty should be on the table. We ought to be able to talk about this statewide. It's outrageous what happened to Sergeant Maynard. You go back and look at what happened to Cassie Johnson. We had another state trooper walked up to a car, a traditional ordinary, I put ordinary in quotes, traffic stop, got shot in the elbow by a guy sitting in a car, could have easily killed the trooper. Yeah. We need to talk about the protection of law enforcement, strengthening law enforcement and first responder protections across the state. But then let me point out, as I said, the incandescent light bulb, gas stoves, hunting and fishing equipment that the federal government's coming after. We need to make sure the Attorney General isn't in a role he is learning at the time he's going into that role. We need somebody who's been proven and tested. My record as U.S. Attorney, a big record. Prosecuted 2 members of the state Supreme Court, a Republican and a Democrat. I was a bipartisan corruption buster. But we need somebody as Attorney General who has that proven record that I have working with federal authorities, working in the federal courts, because a lot of the work of the Attorney General is in the federal courts. And so the last thing we need is somebody learning on the job. And I think with where we're at in West Virginia today, the last thing we need is a moderate in that position. I'm a conservative. I'm a proven conservative. Check the box up and down the issues. Listen, I don't think little boys should be playing little girls' sports. I don't. One of my opponents voted for that to be the case. That case in particular, it matters. Why? That's going to be pending. It's pending in the Fourth Circuit right now. We probably lose that case if I'm predicting, and most people predict that. The next Attorney General will be in the Supreme Court of the United States to argue that West Virginia's law is constitutional, which bans little boys from playing little girls' sports. And I agree with that. I think it's very hard if we have an Attorney General that voted the other way on the issue. Pretty hard to go in there if you don't have the passion of your convictions.
Do you think Patrick Morrissey's done a great job, or great job as Attorney General?
Listen, I think he's changed the standard as Attorney General. Look at what he inherited versus what he's created. He was behind West Virginia versus EPA. Let me be clear to the folks listening to this show. I haven't endorsed anybody in the governor's race. But I'll say as Attorney General, Patrick Morrissey has set the standard in terms of taking on the federal government and protecting our interests. I don't think there's any question that after West Virginia versus EPA, a case that set the standard across the country, he was the leader amongst other attorney generals. No question that because of that court case, more people are employed in West Virginia today as a result. No question. But I'll say this: my job, if I end up being Attorney General, is to continue and enhance what's been happening, but also to build on it. I'm not going to be a rubber stamp or a carbon copy of the current Attorney General. Mm-hmm. We each go into that job with our different expertise, our backgrounds. I've run something bigger, the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of West Virginia. I won't be a novice at this. We ran a great operation. And from a budget standpoint, forgetting all those huge operations we had as U.S. Attorney, in my final 2 years with a budget of about $12.5 million, we brought in revenue of about $34 to $35 million. That's a pretty good return for the taxpayer.
Before we let you go, you've been out on the campaign trail. You and I were talking off the air about some of the places you've been. What are you hearing out on the campaign trail? That's the first part of the question. And the second part is, it was brought up by somebody as it relates to this race for the Republican nomination for Attorney General, that now that J.B. McCuskey has entered the race, J.B. has run statewide campaigns. He's been elected to state auditor. That's something that you have not run a statewide campaign. Ryan Weld has also not run a statewide campaign. What are you hearing on the campaign trail? And are you concerned about name recognition? We'll close with that.
I'm not concerned about name recognition. Listen, ultimately, at the end of the day, a Republican primary is going to be conservative voters that come out to vote in that Republican primary. Out on the campaign trail, it's remarkable the reception that we get all across the state, whether it's the Eastern Panhandle, Morgantown, Parkersburg, Huntington, here in Charleston. My name ID from being U.S. Attorney, pretty darn strong. But I am running against somebody that has name ID. And the question is, are you going to embrace the name ID and that moderate record? Or do you want a conservative? The grassroots are behind me solidly. They know who's the conservative. Am I undergunned, underfunded? Is this going to be a hard campaign? You bet it's going to be hard. But I think people need to know the differences between us. Do you want blackberry pie, blackberry cobbler, or do you want a conservative? Blackberry pie, blackberry cobbler, or conservative? If you believe we need a conservative to fight the Biden administration, you better go to makewvgreatagain.com, makewvgreatagain.com, and support my campaign. And listen, I'm not looking for huge dollar donors. I want those folks who live in a little white house with a white picket fence that care about these things, that care about these issues, that worry about their future. I've supported President Trump. I support him today. Listen, my opponents on President Trump, it's like Voldemort, the name you can't say. He whose name you cannot say. My opponents have been quiet about President Trump since 2015. I challenge you to find anything indicating any support for President Trump. And I think it matters at the end of the day. So makewvgreatagain.com for the third time. But I need help. I'm undermanned. Listen, I'm running against a guy who's run statewide, a serious moderate. There's a real challenge here. There's a real challenge. You want a moderate in that job? Don't help me. You don't want a moderate? You want a conservative? You better support Stuart. And can I be tough? You bet I can. But that's what you need as Attorney General. You need a tough candidate willing to fight.
Mike Stuart, state senator and candidate for West Virginia Attorney General. Mike's always great to have you on the show. Appreciate it, bud.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. It's 923 580 Live, brought to you in part by Generations Physical Therapy, 7 convenient locations along I-64, and they're hiring, too, for both licensed and technically trained staff. For more information, visit generationspt.com. Turn our attention to the Charleston Town Center with Howard Swint coming up next from the Par-Mar Store studio. It's 580 Live, brought to you by the Thornhill Auto Group and the Voice of Charleston, WCHS.
Are you a physical therapy assistant and looking for an opportunity in orthopedics, wellness, and athletic care? If so, Generations Physical Therapy is offering flexible work hours and an upbeat atmosphere. With 7 convenient locations, Generations may have a job designed for you. Visit generationspt.com.
We are professional grade. Hey, it's Sydney inviting you to conquer the great outdoors this summer on the Thornhill Motor Mile. The GMC Sierra has you covered. Off-road capability to conquer any terrain. Plus, select new 2023 GMC Sierra trucks available 0.9% APR. Plus $1,250 trade assist. Plus 90-day payment deferral. Plus. Well equipped with our Thornhill Value Plus warranty. Long-term coverage plus. Click or come by today at ThornhillGMSuperstore.com or on US 119 in Chapmanville and drive your summer like a pro. Must qualify for all offers through GM Financial. See Thornhill for all details.
Elevators. You take them for granted until they let you down. If you're working to maintain a stellar reputation, then let me introduce you to DC Elevator. We want to work with you to make sure your people get where they are going. What could be better than a new company coming to the area and already having 45 years of experience? DC Elevator is bringing a new culture of elevator maintenance, repairs, modernization, and installation to West Virginia. Don't leave your people hanging. For a free consultation, call DC Elevator at 304-345-7222.
Hey, it's Dave Allen for Par-Mar Stores. Ah, yes, summertime. From the ballparks to the pools to the backyard barbecues to vacation or just hanging out at the house, chances are you're going to run out of something. And when you do, visit your local Par-Mar store. From gas to groceries and all the other stuff you need, Par-Mar has you covered. Download the Par-Mar app for even more savings and sign up for the rewards card. Par-Mar is the official convenience store of Marshall University and the official store of the West Virginia Schools Activities Commission. Happy summer, and remember, if there's not a Par-Mar store near you now, there will be soon.
580 Live, presented in part by Travis Willard, your Edward Jones financial advisor just off the Taze Valley exit. Learn how Travis and the team can help you reach your financial goals. Visit edwardjones.com or call Travis Willard today, 304-397-5553. For your Edward Jones financial advisor, Travis Willard, Edward Jones, member SIPC. Text says, Dave, when selected in AG, experience on the federal level is a necessity. No one in the race can match Mike Stuart on his federal level experience. This is why Stuart makes the best candidate and why I am voting for him. Text says, Mike Stuart automatically can't be taken seriously because of his support for POTUS 45, let alone him talking about himself in the third person. He says it should be about the people of West Virginia, but he's all about himself. Text says pie has a pastry crust on top and bottom. Cobbler's made with biscuit batter and doesn't have a bottom. Mike doesn't seem to be able to differentiate between two known quantities only on this show. Text says Stuart yaps about gun rights as he believes cannabis users in legal states are protected by the Second Amendment, as the federal government's prohibition of legal cannabis from buying and owning firearms is a violation of the Second Amendment. If no, he can define what shall not be infringed means. Text says the only name recognition Mike Stuart has is he's the most willing, most talented. Okay, I don't even know what that means. I'm voting for Stuart for AG, says the texter. However, murder is murder, regardless if it's law enforcement or not. Bring back the death penalty. Stuart AG, 24, says the texter. Weld sealed his fate when he created the high school transfer portal. Dave, we need Mike Stuart as Attorney General. He's a quality man with plenty of experience in law enforcement and has common sense. I look for him to be our next governor in the future. Thanks, Dave, according to a texter. Mike says sounds like he's in tune with the heart of West Virginia. And for you Democrats in the process of texting Dave, your party has lost its way. West Virginians will not allow all these reprobates to turn our state into a Portland, Oregon, or another San Francisco. If, says the texter, Mr. Stewart is endorsed by four-time indicted criminal Donald Trump, does anyone need any other reason not to vote for him? Howard Swentz, local developer, is with us right now. How are you, Howard?
Good morning, David. I'm just fine. And you?
I'm fine. Thank you for being here, sir. It's the first time I think you've been in studio, right? Have you been in studio? I know you've been on the phone, but I don't know whether you've been in studio. Well, welcome to the Par-Mar Store studio.
Great to be here.
It's
great
to have you here. Now, okay, it's no secret some of the issues with the town center, and we've talked about it. You're concerned about an agreement going back a couple of years, and you and I kind of exchanged emails about having you on the show. So you got an issue with the parking situation of the parking garages, and also with the Charleston Building Commission. I'll leave it up to you. Where do you want to go first and explain this to people why you're upset?
Well, kudos to Commissioner Salengo for having to try to negotiate with a group of people who are now, quote, hostage taking when it comes to the demands that they've made for allowing the sports center to go forward on top of the parking garage on Lee Street. Their demands, evidently, a year after the announcement, are so onerous that he's gone public with them. And so I salute him. I've gone through this in varying degrees 3 times with Laley Tower when they went into bankruptcy. And by the way, the parking garages did go into bankruptcy. They're owned by a group called the Charleston Building Commission. Now, that's not the good guys down there at the city that do inspections and permitting and code enforcement. This is a very shadowy group, in my estimation. They've been around for 40 years. I can't find virtually nothing on the internet, Secretary of State's office, yet they, a couple years ago, actually 3 years, September of 2020, in effect allowed the mall owner to be released from all responsibility for the parking garages, something that had hitherto, for the last 3+ decades, had always been the responsibility of the mall owner. But now that was through a 3-page agreement. I think I sent that to you.
You did?
I'm concerned about whether the tens of millions of dollars of liability associated with those garages have been transferred from the private sector onto the city taxpayers. No one can give me an answer, so I'm going to go to City Council on Monday and ask that very question and probably be ignored, but so be it.
So this Charleston Building Commission that you're referring to, you say, and you're an investigative kind of guy that you can't find anything out about them. Have you talked to the city about it? I know you said you're going to go to City Council, but what has been your response if you've gone to someone within City Hall and asked about it?
Well, I have not done that, and that's fair. But what I have done is gone to the internet and spoke with reporters who have written extensively about where we are with the parking garages, the sports center, et cetera. And they, I'll quote Ron Butlin of Cura. He says it's a conundrum. I mean, the ownership structure of those parking garages and the land and the liens and the second and third positions, it's mind-boggling. You'd be schizophrenic by the time you figure it all out. But the bottom line to me is I think the Charleston Building Commission, whoever they are and wherever they reside, may have transferred a great deal of responsibility, liability, obligations, debt, however you want to characterize it, onto the taxpayers. So, and here's my point. The bondholders who've been holding us hostage, to use the term, when those garages went into bankruptcy, they didn't foreclose. The bonds were defaulted on. They could have foreclosed. But just like a bank, they would have normally come in and taken the property. But no one in their right mind would foreclose on those garages. Why? Because they'd end up taking possession. Mm-hmm. So in other words, if I said, Mr. Allen, would you like to have 3 parking garages in downtown Charleston for free? Would you like to take them off our hands? Mm-hmm. I'd say, whatever you do not take those parking garages. First of all, you don't own the land. Mm-hmm. It's ultimately going to be a great deal of liability for either the $12 to $15 million of maintenance, whatever it is today, and then eventually you're going to have to tear them down. It's a huge liability. And my fear is that the city taxpayers have had that shunted upon them.
So this situation, and for those who may not be familiar with it, this is a bizarre situation as the way this whole town center thing came to be in the first place. I mean, you look at and I'm not an expert, you are when it comes to real estate and things like that, but when you look at a piece of property, you think, okay, well, and I'll use Madison Mall. There is no Madison Mall, but I'm going to say Madison Mall, okay? There's a Madison Mall. The owners of the property, they own the parking lot. They own, if there's a parking building, they own the area around it. They own the dumpsters. They own the space that they lease out or rent out. But it's not that way with the town center.
Oh no, it's a conundrum to use
Mr. Butlin's term, yeah.
Wrapped up in an enigma.
Uh-huh. So what was the idea behind that of setting it up in such a way?
Well, I think political expediency. Senator Byrd, this goes all the way back literally to Senator Byrd's days in Congress. And word is that it literally took an act of Congress to allow for these tax-exempt bonds to be sold by the Charleston Building Commission. And ultimately it was on Cura land, which was part of urban renewal, Cura. And then, of course, private investment. Mm-hmm. And so the mall developers only wanted to do the mall proper. They did not want to be in the business of garages. That's just overhead for them. They don't make hardly any money on parking garages, which, by the way, they're at the end. These parking garages are at the end of their 40-year useful life. Yeah. With $12 million of, 12 to 15, I can't remember what it is, of deferred maintenance. So it's just ludicrous for the bondholders to try and hold Commissioner Salango and the taxpayers hostage for what I estimate would be upwards of $35 million of expenses and release of liability before they turn the first shovel of dirt for the sports center. So I say, walk away. This is a problem property. Go put $15 million or $20 million into the old Macy's building, which is owned by Cura, the land and the building, and take that remaining amount of money and go build on another urban renewal project property, and clean up a block or two, or go over to the Kasky building. The Kasky building, which is owned by the city, it's going to be vacant if it isn't already, and let that be the new public service building for the city, save tens of millions of dollars there, and build on that giant parcel of land the rest of the sports center. It's within walking distance of the Civic Center, it's within walking distance of the Aquatic Center, the mall, et cetera, et cetera.
I'm kind of gathering here. I don't want to put words in your mouth, Howard, but you are a proponent of the Capitol Sports Complex.
Absolutely, yes. I've seen the economic impact analysis for the Aquatic Center in particular, and it is a win-win. And all you have to do is look at, Commissioner Salango would point out the soccer fields down
Shawnee.
Yeah. So, this is demonstrated economic development with a great return on investment.
And I know that you're in the real estate and development and not necessarily into retail, but I think one of the interesting things, people say that malls have outlived their usefulness. And, malls are not what they were in 1985. I completely get that. The internet and other things have kind of played into the equation there to kind of change all that. But, I spent a lot of time in Huntington. I'm a Marshall guy. I live in Tays Valley, and sometimes I head that way. And the Huntington Mall is doing fine. Now, was it what it was in 1990? No, no mall is, but it seems to be doing fine. And I say that to say this: the town center is really, really struggling, and everybody wants to point at something different as the rising leases and rent, or the issues with parking or things of that nature. And people say, well, I had a text here, somebody said, well, about the parking going to the town center. Well, you've always had to pay to park there at the town center, so that's not something new. How do we fix that? I mean, how do we make people want to come there again, or do we just walk away?
Well, that's a great question, and you're making very good points. You could argue that the Charleston Town Center parking garages were stigmatized by what was perceived to be an unsafe and criminal activity situation. And all it takes is a couple highly publicized incidents to create that stigma. But you also have to bear in mind, Dave, that we have a saturated retail economy here in West Virginia. We have a declining population, and we have unbelievably difficult online retail sales, e-commerce and the like, that's not going away. And so with the combination of the saturated retail sector, a declining population, online competition, it's hard to make it go. Now, of course, South Charleston, they're taking $40 million and borrowing from future generations and putting into a hazardous waste pond. So they're going to be able to underwrite anybody coming in, but they're only going to be able to take jobs and business away from existing businesses because it's already saturated. I mean, I can show you vacant. Well, look at the town center. I bet you it's 3/4 vacant now. And who knows, I mean, it was once $100 million property just 6-7 years ago on the books. And they got it for 7.5. They also were released from the liability of the parking garages, which was, I don't know if it was a tax harvesting effort on their behalf, but they've come in, boarded up all the storefronts, and there you have it.
And this whole group that we're going to be the saviors of the town center, a lot of questions about that particular group, and I know that they've kind of butted heads with the city already, because I had Mayor Goodwin on the day. I even had the Mr. Hull, I guess the main guy, on the show the day of with the mayor, and we talked about all the plans. And other than putting up a few murals here and there, I haven't seen a whole lot going in there.
Oh, they went further. They tried to stop the hotel project, and which I could not understand why a property owner would stop the development of a brand new hotel that would increase their property values and increase foot traffic for their stores. I couldn't figure it out, and they expended a great deal of money in the courts fighting it. And then it dawned on me. I believe the reason why they did that is that they could end up controlling the property. The price or the value of the property goes down because now no one could develop it because of that demising wall, and then they swoop in and get it for pennies on the dollar, and then they develop it.
Let me knock out a couple of texts. I had a text here for you. Someone said, thought the garages funded Cura, that's the Urban Renewal Authority, which I thought was quirky. Even in Atlanta, malls don't charge for parking.
Well, those parking garages had to be built by someone. And, of course, the mall developers did not want to be expending their own money. So as I understand it, the Charleston Building Commission, once again, they floated these bonds, the bondholders bought them, and the responsibility was spread over these, the four corner anchors, as well as the mall owners themselves. The mall owners traditionally have had virtually all the responsibility for the maintenance and upkeep and bond income for those garages.
So you're going to go to City Council on Monday night. You aren't hopeful. And by the way, let me just say that Monday City Council meeting, you might want to grab your popcorn. You might want to pack a lunch, Howard, because it's maybe a long, because that's also going to be the night that they hear the latest needle exchange program.
Thanks for the heads up.
Yeah, that's also going to be here because they had the public hearing last week, and I've talked about it on the show, and they're going to bring it up, I'm presuming, and I'll have Mayor Goodwin on the show Monday to talk about it, but they're going to bring it up Monday night at that same City Council meeting. So
yeah, that's a sticky issue.
Yeah, it is. So what do you expect to get out of this going to City Council and presenting what you just presented to us on Monday?
Well, having done a lot of the homework on the Charleston Building Commission, the ownership structure of the parking garages, and where we are today, I'd like to think that I'm in a position to at least help some of the councilors understand where we are and to implore them to walk away from this sports center on top of a 40-year-old parking garage that ends up having air rights leases that drain the resources for decades to come. Get them to go somewhere else. And that's what Commissioner Salango has been pushing for, frankly, from what I've read.
All right. Howard, we got to leave it here. I appreciate it. Always a pleasure to talk to you, sir. It's 18 minutes away from 10. 580 Live presented in part by Huston's Pizza. This month, get a large 18-inch pepperoni pizza and an order of cheese sticks. Only $21.99 for locations. Place an order or for delivery, visit HustonsPizza.com. We're going to take a break. We're going to talk Multifest coming up next from the Parmar Store studio. 580 Live is brought to you by the Thornhill Auto Group on the Voice of Charleston, WCHS.
Brought to you by the Eric J. Tarr Family Businesses. Eric J. Tarr Family Businesses bring first-class businesses to your community.
Attention employers, do you have an IT workforce shortage? Bridge Valley Community and Technical College has your answer. Bridge Valley uses the Apprenticeships in Motion Grant, or AIM for short, to provide IT training to upskill current staff. These trainings are free or almost free to you. We also have a talented pipeline of IT degree students looking for on-the-job training opportunities, and your company may be eligible for up to 50% wage reimbursements when you take on an apprentice. Visit bridgevalley.edu/AIM to learn more.
We are professional grade. Hey, it's Sydney inviting you to conquer the great outdoors this summer on the Thornhill Motor Mile. The GMC Sierra has you covered. Off-road capability to conquer any terrain. Plus, select new 2023 GMC Sierra trucks available 0.9% APR. Plus $1,250 trade assist. Plus 90-day payment deferral. Plus. Well equipped with our Thornhill Value Plus warranty. Long-term coverage plus. Quicker come by today at ThornhillGMSuperstore.com or on US 119 in Chapmanville and drive your summer like a pro. Must qualify for all offers through GM Financial. See Thornhill for all details.
I'm Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I learned about atrial fibrillation the hard way. My symptoms would come and go. Shortness of breath, fatigue. I kept going. Then I got so lightheaded, I couldn't. My doctor said I have AFib, so I'm about 5 times more likely to have a stroke. Other symptoms, irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain can come and go, but the risk of stroke stays. If you have symptoms, tell a doctor. Visit notimetowait.com.
Sponsored by Bristol Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
580 Live presented in part by Meeks Realty Group. Our area's most beautiful properties deserve the finest realtors. Meeks Realty Group. Visit them online, meeks.us, or call 304-440-1101. Text says, with so many, this is back to the Mike Stuart interview, with so many good conservatives who were elected or re-elected to their current positions and are now running for another office, you're putting those seats at risk of falling to a moderate or worse, a progressive. And in a way, spitting in the faces of everyone who worked so hard and the voters who helped to get you where you are now. Put your personal ambitions aside, according to a texter. Multifest. It's time to turn it on. Tamara Eubanks, who is Executive Director of Multifest, which starts Thursday and runs through Sunday, joined us. Tamara, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well, and thank you for having us.
Thank you for being here. It's back again. I'm going to use every possible hype cliche I can possibly say. It's back. It's bigger and better than ever.
Absolutely. Multifest is back. Multifest 33 is back.
Now, you couldn't have been here for all of them because you're only 22, right?
Well, I'm not going to indulge my age, but I've been here for quite a few of them, okay. Yes.
Now, for those who may not know, what's the history behind Multifest?
Multifest is a diversified festival where we come together and celebrate the cultures of different ethnicities. We come and we celebrate in a friendly environment, nonviolence environment, where we have arts and craft. We have tremendous food vendors. We have clothing vendors. And, of course, our wonderful sponsors that come together just to celebrate with our community on diversity.
Now, a little programming note, David Freisen is going to be on with Hoppy later in the morning to continue the discussion about Multifest. He had a pretty good piece in the paper about it a couple days ago.
Yes.
And there is so much more than just music associated with, because you think Multifest, this is kind of like with regatta people. That's the thing that they all go toward. But the music is a big part of it, and you got a great – I was looking over the lineup before we came down there, Tamara. You've got a great lineup of musicians.
Yes, we try to hit all genres and all generations of music. Not necessarily music, but we have some African dancers coming from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. We have a jazz band coming all the way from Las Vegas, Nevada. We also have an exercise morning on Saturday, and that is just so that people can, stay healthy while they're going through the festival. So we have all sorts of things that are going on. In addition to our kids zone, we always have our Kids Zone where they have their special location to enjoy their fun.
Now, what's going to happen at the Kids Zone?
The Kids Zone, we have inflatables, we have the gaming truck, we have obstacle course, bungee jump, different large board games, face painting, book bag giveaway on Sunday. So it's going to be lots of fun.
And so many of these activities that you talk about, Tamara, are free to the public.
Absolutely. All the activities that we provide, and including the concerts, are free and open to the public.
And it's all at Haddad, right?
Haddad Riverfront Park.
And as getting back to the music, because I'm a music guy, getting back to the music, I mean, when I saw you had the Gap Band coming there, I thought that's pretty good stuff right there.
Yes. The Gap Band is going to close out the entire weekend on Sunday night at 8:30. We're so excited to have them. Of course, we won't have Charlie Wilson with them, but we will have the band. And then to climax the entire festival, we're going to have a big fireworks show.
And who are some of the other musical acts that you're going to have there?
Well, starting on tomorrow, we're going to have EU Band from D.C., which is like a go-go band, and we're featuring our local bands and artists here. On Friday, it's all ladies' night. It's every artist, every entertainers is female. So we want everybody, not just the women, but men, to come white it out. We're going to be in all white with Kiki Wyatt, Sunshine Anderson, and Yo-Yo, the rapper from Compton, California. And Saturday, again, we have that Las Vegas jazz musician coming in. We have John B., we have Life Jennings, and Next. And then Sunday, we do have a little gospel with Crystal Rucker, and then we also have Young Jock coming in to be with our young people just before the Gap Band comes on.
And I'll say one more thing, and I won't talk about music anymore, I promise. The Miss Rucker that you mentioned, she is a nationally world-renowned gospel singer out of Kansas City, I think. Is that right?
Absolutely. She is phenomenal.
She's a fantastic performer. What do you hope that people, Tamara, and for all your volunteers too, what do you hope that people gain other than just a good time and an outdoors and summertime activity? What do you hope people learn when they from coming to Multifest?
Well, most of all, to talk to one another, to mingle with one another, to know each other's culture, because again, we're talking multicultural. So we're looking to have a lot of ethnicities there. We want you just to, mingle together and learn what each other do and how they operate within their community.
And then realize, well, we're really not all that different.
We're not all that different. We're all the same.
Exactly right. Is there a place, Tamara, where people can learn, go online or something to get an easy to look at schedule of all the activities?
Absolutely. Our website is www.multifestwv.org.
There you go. And I know you got a really good social media presence, too, because I stole a picture to put in the promo for social media. So you got all that stuff out there on Facebook again. And tonight is the setup night. This is when the real work begins for you guys tonight.
Starts here in a few. Yes, sir.
And it all runs through Sunday, all at Haddad Riverfront Park. And again, other than merchandising, everything's free.
Everything is free. And we can't do this without our wonderful sponsors that we have, starting with the City of Charleston, the Kanawha County Commission, and many, many others that come along with that.
All right. Well, we wish you the best. It's going to be a great time. Weather looks pretty good, especially for the weekend. I always look ahead to the weather, and I talk to my friend Brian Hughes a lot, and the weekend weather looks really, really good. Maybe a couple showers, but, it'll cool you off a little bit.
Yes.
So,
I think I heard someone say on the radio the other day, the Gap Band has this song, Drop the Bomb on Me.
Yeah, it's a big
one.
So
we're saying drop the rain on us, but not too much.
No, I don't think you're going to be having anything to worry about this weekend. Tamara Eubanks, Executive Director, Multifest, I appreciate you being here. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Good luck with everything. It is 9:50. 580 Live is brought to you part by Pinnacle Consultants. We spend 90% of our time indoors, and our health risk for air pollution can be greater indoors than outdoors. Pinnacle Consultants is the only accredited commercial lab in West Virginia for asbestos and mold. Visit pinnaclecorp.net because what you don't know can hurt you. We're back after this from the Par-Mar Store Studio, 580 Live, brought to you by the Thornhill Auto Group on the Voice of Charleston, WCHS.
Brought to you by the Eric J. Tarr Family Businesses. Eric J. Tarr Family Businesses want to thank you for shopping locally.
Thrive with 5 at the best community bank in the Kanawha Valley, Poca Valley Bank. Poca Valley Bank is now offering a certificate of deposit special, 10-month APY, annual percentage yield 5%. Take advantage of this great rate to grow your savings. For more information, stop by a Poca Valley Bank location today or call 844-782-2651. Poca Valley Bank, where relationships matter. Certain terms and conditions apply. Rates based on minimum annual percentage yield. Subject to change without notice. Minimum deposit required of $10,000 of new money not currently on deposit with Poca Valley Bank to receive APY. Member FDIC.
We are professional grade. Hey, it's Sydney inviting you to conquer the great outdoors this summer on the Thornhill Motor Mile. The GMC Sierra has you covered. Off-road capability to conquer any terrain. Plus, select new 2023 GMC Sierra trucks available 0.9% APR. Plus $1,250 trade assist. Plus 90-day payment deferral. Plus. Well equipped with our Thornhill Value Plus warranty. Long-term coverage plus. Click or come by today at ThornhillGMSuperstore.com or on US 119 in Chapmanville and drive your summer like a pro. Must qualify for all offers through GM Financial. See Thornhill for all details.
Are you fascinated by the unexplained? Then you need to tune in to the award-winning program Weird Darkness on 580 WCHS. Hosted by Darren Millar, named as one of the best storytellers in podcasting, Weird Darkness brings you the best in lore, crime, paranormal, and unexplained stories, like unsolved mysteries with a dash of In Search Of. If you love a good mystery, Weird Darkness is the show for you. Tune in and join the millions of listeners who are hooked on the eerie and unexplained. Welcome, weirdos. Weird Darkness, Sunday nights at 11 on 580 WCHS.
It's 8 away from 10. 580 Live is brought to you in part by QC Kinetics of Huntington and Cross Lanes. Is that knee pain getting worse? I know mine is. How about the pain in your shoulders, your hips, or your back? Get real lasting relief without surgery, drugs, or downtime. Call QC Kinetics today, 304-202-5566, 304-202-5566 for QC Kinetics of Huntington and Cross Lanes. It's Wednesday, which means we'll be doing up another Working Women's Wednesday. We team up with our sister station V100 every Wednesday to go to the Red Carpet Lounge, Elizabeth Street in Charleston, for Working Women's Wednesday with DJ Matt Murphy and Jenny Murray from V100. We start at 5 o'clock. Lots of great food and drink specials, prizes, and more. V100 presents Working Women's Wednesday tonight and every Wednesday at 5 at the Red Carpet Lounge in Charleston. I got a ton of texts to get to, so let me kind of knock out as many of these as possible. Going back to the Mike Stuart interview, text says, Stuart compared J.B. McCuskey switching races to gender fluidity by claiming he's committed to office fluidity. But didn't Mike Stuart just get elected to the Senate, and now he wants to flip offices so soon? Does Mike really have such little self-awareness? As Mike was leaving, Senator Stuart, I should say, as he was leaving this morning, he asked me, he said, I really wish you would have asked me this, and it was about he knocked off Ron Stallings, a multi-term senator out of Boone County, to win the race he is in now. So the next time I have and he's addressed it in the past, but next time I have Mike Stewart on the show, I will ask him about that. Text says, Mike Stewart, what an embarrassment. Text says, with so many good conservatives. Oh, okay, I already read that one, sorry. Text says, Dear Dave, I know you love animals, so did you know that every time you have a Trump supporter on your show, a puppy dies? I'll take that under advisement. Text says, I live midway between the Town Center Mall and the Huntington Mall. I always choose the Huntington Mall for two reasons. Number one, the free parking. Number two, it's safer. I don't have to be concerned with smelly, homeless people staring at me before they ask me for my money that I worked so hard to get for my family. Text says, Dave, haven't heard anything about Kent Carper lately. Is anything going on? I have not either. Of course, Commissioner Carper is back running the Kanawha County Commission again, and I have not heard anything. I haven't heard anything in a while, so we'll see if there are any updates on that forthcoming. Phone calls to 580 Live are a service of Biggly Piggly Wiggly, and our texting services provided by Fruth Pharmacy, your hometown family pharmacy. Text says, will there be an all-men night at Multifest? If not, why not? I'm not sure. Text says, good to hear Howard Swint's take on economic development projects. He's always spot on. He's a smart guy, Howard Swint is. Text says, if there's one way to keep West Virginia on its path of population loss, electing Mike Stewart to anything is a solid plan. I will get you the date once we finalize it, but later this month, I have one of those most must-listen-to shows coming up. Now, I would hope that they're all must-listen to. Two frequent guests on this show that couldn't be any further apart on their views are going to sit down for the entire 1 hour show for a debate, a discussion, whatever you want to call it. State Democratic Party Chair and Delegate Mike Pushkin and State Republican Party Co-Chair Tony Hodge in one studio, the Parmar Store studio, in fact. It should be good. Now, I have been the negotiator trying to make this happen, and they're both willing. It's just a matter of trying to shore up a date when both can do the show, because they are both very busy. And we forget sometimes with political people that they do have other responsibilities outside just politics. Both Mr. Pushkin and Mr. Hodge both have full-time jobs that have nothing to do with politics. And I know Tony is very, very busy with his kids, and Mike is very busy doing Mike things. So it's kind of hard to try to get them together. But we have a date picked out, and I don't want to say it yet, but it's going to be later in the month of August. We are going to have the two of them. No other guests that day. It'll just be Tony Hodge, frequent guest to the show, and Mike Pushkin, frequent guest to the show, State Democratic Party chair, State Republican co-chair, in one studio. If the studio can hold it, I think it'll be a good discussion. That's coming up a little bit later on. I'll give you the finals once we actually nail that down. 580 Live presented in part by your hometown baseball team, the Charleston Dirty Birds. Birds won last night. They continue their long road trip, but they're back at home at Go-Mart Ballpark August the 8th to take on Lexington. For tickets, promotions, gear, and more, visit dirtybirdsbaseball.com. Let me knock out some more. Man, Mike Stuart may be the king of eliciting text on the show. Text says, regarding Mike Stuart, don't forget he rides the coattails of an adjudicated sex abuser. Talking about former President Donald Trump, who, to no one's surprise, and we kind of touched on it with Mike Stuart, picked up a third indictment yesterday. And, you know, I don't have enough time to get into the whole thing, but I will say this. Trump loves this thing. Absolutely loves it. He predicted it, last week, that this was coming, and the more indictments he gets, let's go ahead and raise it to double digits, okay? The more indictments he gets, the more his base loves him, and the more money he elicits in donations. So, yeah, if you're Donald Trump, you're saying bring on all of these indictments that you possibly can, because the more indictments you have, the more popular he becomes, and the more his base loves it even more. It drives up his poll numbers. And as I said, there was a time that I thought that there could be a path forward for another Republican to be the nominee for president in 2024 other than Donald Trump. That's not going to happen. As of right now, I don't see anybody else but Donald Trump being the nominee. Now, there was a time it could have happened. DeSantis just keeps falling further and further away. There's some good Republicans running, Tim Scott, Nikki Haley, others that are running. But the more heat that comes on Donald Trump, the more he's able to elicit campaign donations, because basically what he does is he goes on the air and he goes to these rallies and he says, they're coming after me, they're coming after you, send me your money. And that's what the people do. That's how he elicits more donations. Text says, on balance, I pretty much align with Mike Stuart on the issues, but dang, he's so insufferable to listen to. Text says, united we stand, divided we fall. Text says, Nikki Haley is not good. All right, we got to go. Coming up on the show tomorrow, Doug Cipoletti from the West Virginia Virtual Academies here. West Virginia State President Eric Cage will stop by, and Charleston City Councilwoman Shannon Snodgrass is on the show tomorrow as well. Follow the news of the day, WVMetroNews.com and at WCHSNetwork.com, and follow me on Dave Allen Radio on Facebook and at Dave870 on the artist formerly known as Twitter, now known as X. Ryan Nicholson's my producer. Ryan, thank you so much. I will see you tomorrow. Till next time, have fun and love somebody.
WCHS AM, 96.5 FM Charleston, 104.5 Cross Lanes, a WVRC media station. We're proud to live here too.